Belichick's lost a step to me.
I'm not going to do this.
This is Anik Squared.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3. Anik Squared. Bro, it's Anik Squared episode 3. That tea, you're going to spill that tea, bro. Like, I'm telling you, we're in my house today,
All right,
Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh.
No, this is start over.
Oh, I thought you were stopping the show.
I'm not starting over. It's episode 3, Anik Squared. That was intentional to some degree. I just don't want you spilling your tea in my house. I didn't just get a new sofa like you did. Anyway, I wanted to start the show today. Hey, here with my guy, Jon Anik. But what was really in my head is like, this motherfucker. We had a really interesting week in Las Vegas last week. My name is Jason Anik, my twin brother, Jon Anik, voice of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, you may know. But this is our football show, Anik Squared. For those of you who haven't joined us before, we pick 5 games against the spread. We go against each other. We love talking NFL. I know I sort of hit you in the mouth out of the gate. How you feeling?
Good. I should have raised my guard to begin the show. But if you're joining us on the DraftKings YouTube channel or the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel, we appreciate that very much. Maybe by season's end, the show will be so successful in terms of our selections that we'll get consideration for the DraftKings Network, the revered DraftKings Network, where the Anik and Florian podcast resides. But it's great to be here today. Special show here for week 3. And, been diving into the injury report all morning, some trends leaning into or out of them. And, one thing I will say about Anik Squared, however sharp these selections are or however square they are, you are getting 10 organic, unique NFL selections every week to follow or fade at your own leisure or pleasure. So at the very least, if you're looking for free plays, you're getting 10 of them. They don't cost you anything.
Yeah. So, and I have to say, too, some of our fans may be fans of the UFC, some of them not at all. But, dude, the stretch for you, you got 31 days, if I'm not mistaken, home, which is unheard of.
Don't tell my boss, right? He might be actually watching Anik Squared today. 31 nights at home. It is. The schedule was very front-loaded, 14 UFC pay-per-views this year, and a lot of those are already in the can. So, I'm always ready for the call to come in. I got a text from my boss the other day, and I thought maybe it was a last-minute call to fill in on Dana White's Contender Series, and it was just something NFL-related, thankfully. So,
well, good to have you home,
Thank
kid.
you.
Kid, you don't like when I call you kid. All right.
Kid, boy, guy. I'm your monozygotic identical twin. So when you're like, oh, it's my boy, it's like, oh, my guy. My guy, Daniel Cormier, coming up on the show today. You're my twin brother and, care for you very much and all of that. But like my boy, my guy, not so much.
Can't wait to see DC. All right. Well, typically on Anik Squared, we're more focused on the week that's coming than the week that's past, but we still got some things that happen every week, and week 2 was no different. So we're going to get right into it. Let's see how we did in week 2, where we were hot, where we were cold, and get right to our first segment, Tire and Ice, presented by Toyo Tires. Guys, the road ahead for this football season is uncertain, and there's definitely no map available for players, fans, or coaches. But in order to arrive at the big games, you need to get there safely. The next time you're in the market for tires, there's no better route than a quick slant to Toyo Tires. Whether it's a set of open country tires for the mountains of Denver or 4 new Celsius Sports for a city like LA, you can ride with confidence and no regrets with their 500-mile or 45-day trial. Open roads await this fall. Hit up toyotires.com to find a dealer near you. Toyo Tires, open roads await. All right, my friend, we're going to get right into the super contest, which is really what matters. Again, back-to-back weeks 2 and 3 out of the gate, 4 and 6 overall. You always say, like, don't even talk to me if we get 3 and 2. It's almost like you feel like you got to get 8, 9 out of 10 right out of the gate to get a good jump on this field, because there are some relentless entries that just come out of the gate hot. So 4 and 6, first 2 weeks.
If you're trying to win the super contest, you can't go 4 and 6 through 2 weeks. So we'd like to congratulate the future winner of the 2023-24 Las Vegas Westgate Super Contest. Still can cash though, right? And even when I'm sort of crying on late Sunday afternoon, then all of a sudden you get Rams +8 home, and it just makes you realize there are going to be a lot of swing games. You hope to sort of be on the right side of those, and you just kind of want to minimize those really bad days, those 1 and 4s, 2 and 3, not ideal. Obviously, we were both over 500 here, 3 and 2, to get back to 500. And ultimately, I'm trying to beat you head to head. I'm trying to stay in the game as far as cash in the contest is concerned. And I think the 2 and 3 at least keeps us in the game to whatever degree.
Yeah, and we'll get to the head-to-head selections. And forgive me for repeating to the audience every week, but the super contest where we enter 5 picks every week out in Vegas, that's really what matters. What we do head to head is fun for the show, but when we're picking the lines, sometimes early in the week, things change, lines flip. So sometimes the lines we play in the super contest very different than those on Anik Squared. So our picks that mattered this week, 2 and 3, I'll quickly go over. I got to go one at a time. So the first loss, Packers -1. All right, they lose the game by 1 point. They were -1 locked in on the super contest. This line closed at +1.5. So if you bet this game Sunday morning and you took the Packers on the line, you hit it +1.5. Up by 12 points at the end of 3. This one stung, man. That was when I felt like I was on the right side.
Falcons are plucky, and for us, and I think for a lot of our viewers, what really matters is how you handicap these outfits moving forward, not so much that we were on the Packers in the contest, and it ended up being a loss, right? But as we sit here on Wednesday taping the show for week 3, we don't know about Christian Watson's health. We don't know about Aaron Jones, and we still don't know how good Jordan Love is. I tend to lean towards the fact that he is closer to what the numbers suggest than maybe closer to the middle of the pack. The numbers suggest he's otherworldly, and I think there are a lot of sharps out there waiting for him to have this like 30 completion game, but he hasn't necessarily had all of his parts. So, yeah, Packers had a ripe opportunity to go to 2-0. Instead, they're 1-1.
Yeah. All right. So that was first loss. Second loss. And, I said last week with the Lions -5.5, I watched it back. I wanted to close the window. A lot of sharp guys out there were on the Seahawks all week, and I was just steadfast on my Detroit Lions. I did think they had their chances. Jared Goff was great other than the pick 6, but ultimately Seattle wins the game, so not much leverage there. Anything on the Lions before I move on to our third loss?
The show's called Anik Squared. That was a square selection. That team is not healthy on either side of the ball. And perhaps you would expect some letdown even with the extra time after the Thursday night season opening win over the Kansas City Chiefs. But just put yourself in the shoes of a Lions fan, right? Had to feel pretty good about the prospect of getting to 2-0, and 1-1 kind of stings. And challenging game coming up this weekend for the Lions as well, with the Falcons coming to town.
And I need to start respecting the Seahawks a little bit more than I do. Third loss, Jaguars +3.5 versus the Chiefs. Jaguars certainly had their opportunities all throughout the day, but ultimately in this contest, you can do better than betting against the world champs. I know you like Jaguars in your 5, but I probably could have left that out of the contest, but it was 3 early in the week. I like that half a point. And the Jaguars had great chances to put points on the board, just didn't.
Yeah, philosophically, I'll repeat what you said. You can certainly find a better play most weeks than betting against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, especially on Mahomes' 28th birthday. But I don't know, man, another big number next to the Chiefs this week, and I'm not going to be on them.
All right, so those are the 3 losses. Our 2 hits, Rams +8 versus the 49ers. Thank you, Sean McVay, for perhaps being aware at the end of the game. For those who don't know, it's a 10-point game at the end, final play of the game. Rams kick a field goal, backdoor cover. We will take it. I feel like my wins are lucky and my losses are unlucky this week. Everything I hit, I feel like I didn't deserve to. Everything I dumped, I felt like I deserved to hit. Rams +8. You like that in your 5.
This is just thematically one thing we talked about week 1, week 2. I'll be looking to back Sean McVay and this team, and the output they're getting from the young receiver whose name escapes me is great. I've heard his name so many times I meant to write it down. But Jon Anik is even making plays. Cooper Kupp eventually is going to come back. Very interesting situation for the Rams forthcoming this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. We don't know as of this taping as to whether or not Joe Burrow is going to play. But Matthew Stafford looks fantastic. And Rams are catching points again this week.
So the Bengals line I saw this morning on DraftKings Sportsbook at -1 this weekend moved to -2.5 hosting the Rams. So ultimately, maybe that's a lean toward Burrow. Either way, man, interesting start for the Cincinnati Bengals. And then our final selection, Dolphins -3 versus the Patriots. A little bit lucky here too. The Patriots had their opportunities. But the Patriots, they put themselves in tough spots. When you turn the ball over in this league and it leads to points on the other end, it's just very difficult to come back from that. I will say about the Patriots, we've talked a lot about the Dolphins. Fascinating to see the different sides of the Mac Jones argument. You got arguments out there talking about how incredible really he has been, that it's been the offensive line and the receivers that have let him down. But the eye test for me, still, I don't see him making all the throws. I don't see the quick feet.
And I don't know that it is so much verbal arguments being made to the positive about Mac Jones as much as it is that when you break down the film and the numbers, he has played pretty darn well. He's made some difficult throws in tight windows, and not for an interception here or there. Maybe his numbers would be even better. But to me, when I look at Mac Jones, there's a clear ceiling on his arm, and that ceiling is not particularly high. There's a clear ceiling on his feet, and he's slower than I am at 45 years of age. So I'll be looking to fade the Patriots most weeks, and I think you'll probably find that I'm on the New York Jets coming up here in week 3.
So those are the super contests. So 2-3, 2-3 in weeks 1 and 2, 4 and 6 overall. Head to head, we were also 2-3, both of us in week 1. Flip that a little bit. Both of us went 3-2 this week.
Okay.
Back to 500 head to head. Quickly to go through your 5 head to head, your 2 losses. Jaguars +3 versus Chiefs. We already talked about that. Lions -5.5 versus Seahawks. Wins, Rams +8 versus 49ers. Commanders, so these 2 wins I want you to touch on briefly. So the Bills +8.5 versus the Raiders. We had Josh Cohen on our program last week, Anik Squared, giving out a super square, a 4-team, 13-point teaser. And you said to him on the show last week, you're like, I don't know how much I like that 22.5. Even with he took the Raiders +22.5. That was the one leg of his teasers that didn't hit.
Correct.
You love the Bills -8.5. You sat here with me telling me they're going to score 40 points. Good luck to the Raiders all day. Frankly, that should have been an enormous wager in our sports book with the Bills. You were all over that flip of the switch in the week.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's the NFL. I hate that whole, oh, man, should have been on this side, right? Shoulda, woulda, coulda, man. You know, of course, man. You know,
it was the
should have
first
been on the
selection.
Seahawks in week 2. What was I thinking?
No, but
right?
it was the first pick you gave out last week and probably one of the games you liked the most, and you weren't that aggressive come the weekend on it.
Well, I'm always in my own head about big favorites in the Westgate contest. So I guess that is part of the issue. But no, yes, I love the Buffalo Bills. I don't particularly care for the Las Vegas Raiders. Everything that I expected pretty much to happen in that Buffalo game happened. I didn't necessarily expect that their defense would be as good as it was in terms of shutting down that Vegas Raiders offense. And Josh McDaniels is a pretty creative guy. But yeah, man, I feel pretty good about that selection and pretty good about backing Buffalo on both sides of the ball moving forward. And Washington Commanders, it's really more about a fade the Denver Broncos situation than it is back in the Washington Commanders. But I did think that it was a big effort by that team, especially getting down early. They believe in Sam Howell. So, we feel good about getting that underdog home. And we're on to week 3. How about you, week 2?
You know, there's so many comebacks in the NFL this league. At one point, it was like Broncos country. Let's ride. That building was going nuts. Yeah, I brought it back for 23, 24. But there are a lot of, that building was going nuts. They were rolling. I don't know how many points they were up, but then just nope. I remember seeing shots of the Commanders sideline, Del Rio looking all upset. Anyway, 3-2, well done. I went 3-2 as well. My losses, Packers -2.
Right.
We talked about that game. I felt like it was my best play of the week and that dumped. Texans +1.5. Anthony Richardson goes out, mattered not. Colts dominated, so that I didn't like. Bucks -3 versus the Bears. Bucks were in control the whole way, outgained them by 200 yards. I didn't overcomplicate that. I was glad about that. Bucks -3. Dolphins -2.5 at the Patriots I hit. And then finally, lucky as heck, I think last night, Steelers +2, 2 nights ago, versus the Browns. 2 defensive touchdowns, the injury to Nick Chubb. I think if Nick Chubb stays healthy, he could have run for 200. He was looking fierce. But interesting, Deshaun Watson really gave that one away. So I feel lucky on the Steelers +2 there. No?
Yes. And injuries are just a big part of this league and really a big part of the handicapping process and a big part of the early week line movement, of course. And even if you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, right, and everybody banging on Kenny Pickett, and he has been atrocious, right? But he is missing Deontay Johnson, right? And they are missing Cam Hayward on the other side of the ball, right? So some of these teams right now in present constitution are just not healthy. Even the Cincinnati Bengals, right? If they can sort of stem the tide and survive a little bit with Joe Burrow not being 100%, we don't even know if he's going to play this weekend, then I still think that team can be heard from. The Green Bay Packers, as we referenced earlier, the Detroit Lions, we don't know what they're going to be dealing with. On and on it goes. And I just think it should be a big part of the handicap for a lot of these games, specifically when it comes to this week. And we come to you on a Wednesday. There's a lot of handicappers out there that have to make their picks on Monday, Tuesday, less than ideal. Obviously, in a perfect world, you're not making your super contest picks until Saturday morning. But a lot of information, and you got to sift through it as best you can.
We got to touch base on Nick Chubb because you said to me, that this guy, at least for your eyes, is as good as any player you've seen in the NFL all season. Devastating injury, but this guy's electric, man. He hurt the same knee in 2015. Tough on the eyes to watch this. He was so explosive.
And supposedly he's a really good human being as well. You got to feel bad for Nick Chubb, as you mentioned. Collegiately went through this once, and I was going to text you at some point during that game against the Steelers that we should lead the show with Nick Chubb. In week 2, biggest storyline from week 1 was Aaron Rodgers, the Achilles, right? That was our lead story in week 2. And I was thinking that our lead story for week 3 should be that Nick Chubb is the best player that I have seen on the field. It seems like, unlike Najee Harris, when there's no hole, this dude's getting 8 yards. So to see him go down like that, and I know our next guest probably didn't even have the stomach to look at it, but to see Nick Chubb's season end like that when he looked like the MVP is hugely disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of that, so we got a celebrity on our show today. So you all know who this guy is. Back in the day, he's winning multiple UFC championships, multiple divisions, getting into the MMA, UFC Hall of Fame. But now, dude, he's a television star. Look at the boy. DC and RC, pay-per-view analyst. Look at the legend. What's up, DC? Pleasure, brother.
Yeah, I'm on Anik Squared, so I done made it. I done made it. I've been asking. I've been begging this dude, Jon Anik, for so long. Let me come on and talk football. Maybe I don't know the game like you, Jon Anik, but let me talk football. Give me a chance. Coach, put me in. Put me in, Coach.
Your beautiful brick drop background with your DC wrestling logo. You look very clean today. You look lean, actually. You look like you're probably like 235 pounds right now. You're looking good, champ.
I wish, Coach. But you know when I'm 235, because then I start to grow the beard out. I start to do things to try to make myself just look a little better, But no, I don't. I wish I weighed 235.
I tell you, this cat, when the lights are on, it's just electricity. What, Contender Series last night, right, dude? Always something.
Did he?
Right?
I did Contender, dog.
Look at this guy,
I gotta be honest with you. I don't mind Contender. I think it's fun. It's fast. It's quick. And then these kids, they fight with an urgency that we don't really see much. But John, it ain't UFC Noche. You know what I'm saying? It ain't UFC Noche. UFC Noche was my favorite night of the year to this point, man.
I'm telling you. I got to figure out a Mexican flag tattoo bet for Noche UFC next year. If maybe like every Mexican fighter wins, we just go Mexican flag tattoo right on the neck.
That would be good, but I'm brown, right? So you might not see the colors as clean.
Yeah. Hey, so this is not necessarily a UFC free zone, but I do want to get into some NFL things with you, specifically the Nick Chubb thing that we were just discussing, right? Because, you are a Hall of Famer, and when all is said and done, you're probably going to be in 3 or 4 Hall of Fames, but you have a hard time looking at some of these sports injuries when they happen in mixed martial arts. And I would submit to you that if Nick Chubb was just wearing fight shorts, this would have been more gory than most anything you've seen, other than maybe a leg break in the octagon. So did you see the Nick Chubb injury, and how do you feel about him going down like that?
So here's what I saw, right? Because you know me, right? When Weidman broke his leg, when Conor broke his leg, I never looked back. I see it the first time, and even reading the article where it said, ESPN said it's that bad. That's why they didn't continuously show replays, because it was horrible. But I saw the picture, and I saw how it was turned backwards. And you wonder, how does this happen? But then I saw it was a knee injury. So I thought by looking at the picture, John, that it would be one of those compound fractures like Anderson or like Chris. But I don't know if what happened? Was it a ligament? I don't know exactly what it was, but it looked terrible. And it was sad because this dude has been playing at a level that we haven't seen these running backs. But then it also leads to the same discussion, right? These running backs are severely underpaid. And the reason I think they don't get all the guaranteed money is because at any moment, an injury like this can happen. Football is it's a scary sport, man. And sad for Nick Chubb because he was running at a level, man, we hadn't seen it for a while.
It's angry for sure. So, I think it's multiple ligaments. And, for Chris Weidman, the night he breaks his leg, right, he goes into trauma surgery in Jacksonville. So at the very least, when Chris Weidman gets through those 16 hours, it's horrifying, no doubt, and everything that he had to deal with in the aftermath, right? But at least his leg gets fixed that night. Sometimes when you have multiple ligaments, right, Nick Chubb got to fucking sit there for 10 days or whatever it is to have all the swelling go down. And you just got to know that your leg is fucking mangled and you can't go under the knife yet. It's got to be brutal.
Well, the problem with an injury like that, right, is like you said, the swelling's got to go down before the doctors can go in there and do the surgery as they intend to. But it's not even the physical toll that it takes on you. It's the mental. Because you go from riding so hot, running the ball at that level, that elite level, to sitting on the couch or sitting in the hospital bed, waiting to know that time is going to be taken away. You're sitting there constantly wondering, man, am I ever, because these football players and these fighters, they're different, right? They think that it's only a matter of time before they come back. So he's sitting there thinking to himself, am I ever going to be the guy that I was before this injury? Can I run at the level that I was running? How does this recovery look? How does the rehab look? So it's more mental, where you're sitting there asking all these questions of yourself. Can I be the man that I was before? I've never had anything that severe, but I remember leaving the octagon when I fought Bigfoot Silva in Cincinnati in 2011. I broke my hand, and it was just turned all kind of ways. And while you had just made money, you start to go, I got to fight for the Strikeforce Grand Prix Championship. Am I going to be able to punch with this? What's going to be the lingering effects? Like, am I going to be afraid to throw as hard as I've thrown before? Because I had never really dealt with it. So for me, it's going to be the mental that's going to really take a toll on Nick Chubb in terms of how he recovers from this injury and where he goes after he's done.
Yeah, and right in the middle of that running back prime, which really isn't a big prime. But anyway, the Saints are prime. Dude, still 30-1, your Saints.
Jay, let's just say something, Jay. So I just gotta say it, man. I hope to God you ain't calling fights sounding like my boy Jon Anik. Because if I don't look down at the screen, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, is my boy John talking to me, or is Jason
I'm telling you,
actually trying to sound like my guy?
Dude, you're lucky we don't fuck with you on the road. I could fuck with you all day, running my mouth, hiding behind doors, but we don't.
Y'all don't take it easy on me. Y'all sound just the same, bro.
No question, man. Well, but you did say to me last time we were together, you were like, you're a little higher pitched. And those who really know us, you're correct. So, dude, let's talk about
not for nothing. Not for nothing. It's a little higher pitch,
Yeah, that's all right. I'll take it. So, dude, I know that you're a lot higher on your New Orleans Saints than I am, but dude, still 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. You gotta like that 2-0. How you feeling about your boys, man?
I feel good, but can I be honest? Like I am sometimes unjustifiably confident in things. And I think at times my confidence in the Saints can be a little bit off base. And I love our defense. And defense wins championships. But bro, the offense has got to be more consistent. We aren't moving the ball consistent. We didn't move the ball consistently against Tennessee. We didn't move the ball consistently against Carolina. And the reality is we've kind of played a couple bad teams. So being 2-0 is great. And I know that Cam Jordan, and I know that DeMario Davis and Marshawn Lattimore and the rest of the boys are going to make sure that we're good defensively. But man, Derek Carr and these dudes. I didn't imagine that the Alvin Kamara would be missed as much as he is.
Good point.
Because of Williams. I thought he would be a little bit better in the role, but it's taking a little time. But man, to still win and not be playing your best is a different feel for us as Saints fans, because before, when we didn't play good, we always lost.
3 teams in that NFC South right now are 2-0, and of course your New Orleans Saints are one of them. And they got the running back, the rookie, I think, Kendre Miller, who might make his season debut this week, so perhaps some injection there. I got to say, man, and I said this to you when we spoke briefly yesterday, in terms of young talent and playmakers to get excited about, sometimes these games flip on one special player or play, and this kid, what is it, Rashid Shaheed?
Shaheed, yep.
I mean, when he fair catches the ball, he almost has the look in his eyes like, you're lucky that, there wasn't one more yard. I'm taking this to the house, and you almost believe him. So I think you might have something there.
Well, I remember Shaheed last year, rookie, wearing 89. Hey, John, he didn't have 22, right? When you're a rookie and you barely get on the team, you don't get to choose your number. We stick whatever we got left for you. Shaheed's out there, number 89, returning kicks. And you can see right away, like, wow, this kid has something. Dude. He's one of those guys that now you see the special plays in the playbook designed for him and his skill set. And I know those because we had Reggie Bush plays where we couldn't get Reggie Bush to swing the toss, the halfback toss, because they're too fast in the NFL. So what would Drew Brees do? Couple stop drop, little swing pass right out to Reggie, get him out in space. It's exactly the type of plays that we're trying to build right now for Shaheed, because if he's in space, dude is a real problem. But you have to have success from Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, because then that guy becomes your third option. And for that dude to be the third option, you got something.
Yeah. This Olave turning in.
I'm excited.
No.
I'm excited.
Well, no, I mean,
I'm excited.
The thing is, right, like Chris Olave, obviously everybody knows what they seemingly have there, turned in the catch of the year in week 2. Michael Thomas looks like a real security blanket at times already for Derek Carr. So, yeah, Carr had like 9 straight incompletions. But, hey, man, 2-0 is fucking 2-0, right? I mean, the Packers, all they had to do was beat the Falcons to get to 2-0, and now they're staring at 1-2 if they can't beat the 2-0 Saints. This league is fucked, man.
It's the craziest. Dude, how lucky are we when football starts? It's like the best time of the year, right? We love fights, but having the football season, I get so excited on Sundays. I rush back from whatever UFC we're doing to make sure that we're watching. In Australia, J.A., I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make sure I watched the Saints game, and I didn't sleep until I got back on the plane so that I could sleep on the plane to get back to California. But football is the best. There's nothing that feel that we have outside of the people that we love in fighting, you don't get for anything other than your sports teams. For you guys, the Boston Celtics, the Patriots, for me, the Saints, and kind of, nobody else really. I love the Rockets, but I don't have that same connection to them like I do for the Saints. And it's 2-0. And like I said, man, Derek Carr got to get his shit together, because if not, we're going to run his ass out of New Orleans. You can't come over here and just be – you can't come over here with the contract we gave you as the man and not play to the level that we expect. The last quarterback that had a long career and then came over to New Orleans goes by the name of Drew Brees. So we are expecting you to at least be a fraction of what Drew Brees was. And if you do, John, we got one of the best defenses in the entire league, boys. And if those guys continue to play at that level, we're in.
I was waiting for you to get off the show for me to talk about Derek Carr, because I got a lot to say about your boy Derek Carr, and I don't want to bother you. But it was interesting because I was going to ask you what your Sundays are like, but you said it, right? A lot of these MMA guys have no interest in the NFL. Joe Rogan probably doesn't know who Patrick Mahomes is.
He doesn't. He probably doesn't. But no, my Sunday looks like your Sunday, right? Me and John talk about football, and it's like, man, this just flows, because you grow up as a sports kid. And that's the difference in most of the athletes and the people that just do stuff, right? Yeah. That's why, Jason, we can go and play basketball after not playing basketball for years, because we all grew up as sports kids. You guys grew up in a sports town, so you were real lucky to be in the Boston area. I grew up in Louisiana, where all we had was the Saints, and we were wearing garbage bags, but they were our Saints. They were our Saints. So it didn't matter what you thought about them. They were for us, and I just grew up as a kid that loved sports, man, and my Sundays are filled with football. During the basketball season, I'm watching basketball all week. I'm recording games. Now I'm all into golf. I watch golf every time. I'm going to the Shriners. I'm going to the Shriners in Vegas the next time I'm there to work a fight night. So it's like, I love sports, man. It's like the best. Like, sports are really the best. Like, I can't explain it.
We are going to get your thoughts on the Saints in week 3, and maybe if you have a play or two, but I have to get this out there before we get on out of here. So your son, Daniel, number 9 in your program, number 1 in your heart, he has had an instinct and just an ability to find the football defensively, really from a very young age on film. Yes. And I'm not saying that because you're my broadcast partner and friend. He's coming off a game in which he had his first interception. We're very excited about that footage. So to what extent do we think this young man's going to get some size to actually push him to the level where we all think that DC Jr. can actually get?
I think that he's going to be big. I think that he's going to have a lot of potential, and but I always tell these kids, and I spoke this to the team the other day. There's one kid on the team, John, that for as good as all of our kids are, this kid just moves different. And you know that when they get to high school, this kid's going to go to the local prep school or the local private school that's De La Salle or one of those great football schools, because he just moves different, and he'll have a chance. My son will have a chance because of the connection that we have and the ability to put him out in the spotlight. I think he'll get big, but it will ultimately be on Daniel what he decides he wants for his athletics career. He's going to have to put in a lot of extra work. The dude lives a different life, J.A. and Jay, from most of these kids that are trying to find a way into football as a profession or whatever, basketball, baseball. He doesn't have the same worries as a lot of these kids in the inner city. And I was that kid. So I worked at a crazy level to ensure that I could change my life. And Daniel doesn't have those same worries. So ultimately, he will have to be motivated. Hey, Christian McCaffrey is a guy that had everything. But this dude, the stories that I hear out of Stanford, there was no one that worked like Christian McCaffrey. This dude was a monster in the weight room, monster in the training room, monster on the field. And that's why with all that he had, he still is one of the best players in the NFL. That's what my kid's going to have if he has any chance of even going to college to play football. It's just that competitive a sport.
That's an outstanding answer, but Christian McCaffrey didn't jump off the film at 7 years old the way your son did. But I understand your point.
Yeah, for sure. But he's good, man. He's good. He's very talented. He's very good. He knows how to tackle. He caught his first pick the other day. And John, I mean, I was happy. We were happy when I knocked Stipe out. You can see the pictures, guys. But my son, that screech that he let out when he caught that ball, he was like, oh my God, I caught an interception. I said, well, Dan, if you're in the right place or you're where you're supposed to be, that ball goes up in the air, man. Good things happen for you. Man. So
exactly.
I'm teaching him how to play the position. I'm teaching him how to read plays. I'm having to be on the phone with some of my friends that play pro football and other things to kind of get tips so that I can try to give this dude an advantage in how to do what he's supposed to do.
Love it. So Saints going to Lambeau this week. Derek Carr on the season, 1 touchdown pass, 2 picks. You think they go into Lambeau? I know Green Bay's banged up. You think they get to 3-0 this week, your boys?
I do. Partially because we have such a great defense. I think defense travels also, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas your offense struggles at times on the road, I think your defense can travel. Your defense, when they are playing at the level that the Saints are playing, it does not matter the noise. They will play anywhere. And I believe that the defense is so talented. The defense is so locked in right now. I think that we go to Lambeau and we manage because that's essentially what we got to do, right? Alvin Kamara has one more game. One more game to sit out, then he's back. We got to manage. I think that the Saints will manage in Green Bay, get the job done, and then when week 4 hits, I think we're all systems go. Because the one thing that we got super excited about as Saints fans, guys, was week 1 of the preseason. Derek Carr had 1 drive. We went right up the field and we scored. But we had Alvin Kamara. And on 3 or 4 of those plays, it was a drop off to Alvin or it was a run to Alvin that got us ahead of the chains, right? 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4. And that makes the game easy, even if your quarterback is, Mac Jones or even Mac Jones can manage a 2nd and 3, you would think.
That's good. And I do think the Saints are due to pop a big play. I really do. That may sound simplistic, but Daniel Cormier bringing the football knowledge today. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel for all of his mixed martial arts content and some increasing NFL content, I think, in the not too distant future. Maybe this will be a monthly segment, man. We need to get you back. Telling you.
Bring me back whenever you want. I love this. I love talking football and I love talking to my boys. But what a beautiful living room. I mean, whose house is this? I mean, what? John, what are you paying this guy? What a beautiful living room.
I mean, guy's got no job. Quite a house, though.
What a beautiful living room. All right,
much
boys.
Love,
great work.
You're the best.
Talk to you, boys. Later, guys.
Dude, how about DC, bro? I mean, nobody liked DC. I talk all the time about this guy. It is unbelievable how interesting he is all the time, whether it's off camera, on camera, flip, and the way he can flip a switch like nobody else, man.
Yeah, as naturally gifted a broadcaster as I've ever worked with. And he did undersell his son a little bit. I thought his overriding answer and theme was outstanding in terms of what the work ethic and the commitment needs to be. Like, I love sort of the only hazing I do really to my kids is be like, it's amazing you're 12 and you have no idea what hard work is. That really stinks, right? Because it's around the other corner and there's a lot of it coming your way. But his son is not just like a good tackler. Like he'll behead people. Like he has a tremendous athletic instinct for the football and had it from a very young age. So we'll see.
All right. Well, let's roll on. So the NFL season, as you know, is well underway, and Sundays in my house are, again, all mine. Parked in front of the TV, locked into all things pro football, action all over the board. We at Anik Squared are happy to announce we have partnered with our title sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official partner of the National Football League, to bring all new customers an exciting way to join in on the action right now. New customers, download the DraftKings app, use our promo code SQUARED, that's SQUARED. Bet just $5 and boom, $200 in bonus bets hit your account instantly. So don't wait any longer. Get some skin in the game and download the DraftKings app now. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets together from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry about it. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up using promo code SQUARED, bet just $5 on any wager, and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, so we're going to get to our head-to-head selections. Each week, we pick 5 games against the spread and against each other. Ultimate goal being to get our 5 picks locked in for the Westgate Las Vegas Super Contest. And I have to say, for me, the last 2 weeks, I was definitely driving the bus, if you will. You got to drive the bus on the 5 this week because I don't think you're going to like my 5 selections at all for a number of different reasons. Some of your rules that you've been trying to come up with, most of my selections break your fucking rules.
So do mine, soft rules. And those soft rules were really just having to do with injury reports, having to do with home underdogs, big favorites, road or otherwise, just really honing in on other games that don't involve big favorites, if at all possible. But it was just a conversation, not necessarily anything that is a steadfast rule. One number that I did just want to point out before I get into my first selection. And yes, I will text you the 5 picks for the Vegas contest this week, and you can submit those 5. The Minnesota Vikings in one-score games in 2022 were 11-0. In 2023, in one-score games, they're 0-2. And I just think it's something that just speaks to this league. And I know you had a lot of future tickets on the Minnesota Vikings last year, and they seemed fraudulent at times. And this year, they got a must-win in week 3, as do the New England Patriots, as do a lot of other teams. The Cincinnati Bengals, maybe you could argue, have a must-win game against the LA Rams in a Super Bowl rematch. So I thought that was very interesting. And then just in terms of this whole theme of health as well, Atlanta Falcons, Detroit Lions is a game that we may or may not get to, right? But as of this taping, Amon-Ra St. Brown is questionable. I think he had turf toe, maybe cramps. We don't know exactly. It doesn't look like David Montgomery is going to play. I saw an offensive lineman get injured. Detroit's banged up. There's just so many factors when it comes to handicapping these games, but it's like, how do I sit here and tell the audience Falcons plus 3.5 when I don't even know if the best player arguably on either side of the game is playing? It's a little tough.
Yeah, but I also, the Packers this week with Aaron Jones, he seemed to move the line significantly, unless there's some other part of that I'm missing. He moves the line. Atlanta wins a game by a point, but the Packers, they weren't missing him early. I know.
And Atlanta closed minus 1.5 in some spots.
Exactly. Anyway, I started us last week. We both went 3-2, 5-5 overall. Why don't you get us going this week?
All right, I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks -6 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, home to the Carolina Panthers. And strategically, I'm changing it up this week. I actually put these games in order because the head-to-head nature of this particular competition against this guy is such that if I lead, I need to lead with the games that I like the most. So even though I don't love having to put these in order, this is my top pick, best bet, if you will. Seattle -6, returning home to the Carolina Panthers. I can't find anyone out there who is backing Bryce Young and the Panthers. Anyone out there who says, I like Carolina this weekend, right? Short week for them coming off Monday Night Football. I say that of the Cats. They did not look good against the Saints, even though the scoreboard maybe suggests otherwise. It was only a 3-point loss. Seattle acquired a ton of momentum in winning at Detroit, even if the game and the box score was not perfect. Geno Smith was outstanding, right?
He was.
Gotta love watching this guy when he's on. Tyler Lockett remains just a game-changing weapon. I don't envision betting on the Seahawks a ton this year, but the Fighting Pete Carrolls get a play in week 3. I like the scheduling spot. Seahawks -6 to lead my card in week 3.
So we don't share our picks with each other. So let's say I was on the Seahawks there -6. I would have to eliminate that from my 5 and pick an alternate selection. I have a feeling we're both going to like this next game, and he's going to be scrambling. My first selection shouldn't surprise you. The Dolphins -6 versus the Broncos. I expect to be betting the Dolphins a lot this year. Done it twice. I love the culture with Mike McDaniel as much as I love the roster. First home game here after beating the Chargers and the Patriots on the road. And you got the Broncos coming in town. I just can't see them giving one back here. I expect the environment in Miami this week to be all smiles. I don't necessarily think it's all smiles in Denver. I think this could be a rout. Fascinated to see what Sean Payton's going to get out of his boys, but I think the Dolphins win by more than a touchdown. My first selection, Miami, -6.
So the Dolphins -6 would have made my card. Jalen Waddle may not play, but I think they have playmakers who can step up in his absence. Head coach just totally locked in, one of the sharper minds out there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty firm on the Dolphins to win by a touchdown or more here. So Miami -6, -6.5, even -7. I find it hard to believe when we submit our 5 on Saturday morning that the Miami Dolphins at home are not going to make that card. So firm agreement there. Jets +3, home to the New England Patriots. Patriots have won 14 straight in the series against the Jets, but this Jets defense is just a different force with which to contend, right? Yeah, they've won 14 in the series. How many have they won against this particular Jets defense? 0, right? 0. How does the Patriots offensive line match up with this Jets defensive front? How's that going to go for New England? I think the Jets are going to be able to run the football. You can hide Zach Wilson. Not the whole game, but you can hide him. I think it'll be a short game because I think both teams are going to try to run the football. Low scoring game. Patriots fighting for their season at 0-2, right? That's the only thing that gives me pause. The Jets are 1-1. Patriots may win a close game, but they're the ones laying 3 on the road. I think the Jets have a great chance to win the game outright. Do they not? Give me the Jets +3 as home underdogs in week 3. What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I maybe would like him more if Joe Flacco was under center. Some of these quarterbacks, the youthful quarterbacks such as Zach Wilson, it's amazing how you feel like you put your team at such a disadvantage. Even after the big plays, you just are like, they just are so few and far between. As much as you could be sure I love the Patriots this week, but I wasn't putting them in my 5. My second selection, I'm going back to the Dan Campbell well here. I'm betting on the Lions again. -3.5 at home versus the Falcons. I still think they should have beat the Seahawks last week. I understand the health components. I'm Amon Ross St. Brown. But some of the health components, if we are doing the show on Wednesday, it just is what it is. And I don't want to overthink that. I kept telling myself like the Packers were just a juggernaut this weekend, regardless of Aaron Jones. So other than that big pick 6, as I said, Goff was great. The Lions only gave up 82 yards on the ground against Seattle. If they can slow down Bijan Robinson, which I think is a tough task, I just think they should be able to cover the 3.5 here. I think this line would be a lot bigger had they won that game last week, or at least closer 4.5, 5. I like the small number here. I don't think it's going to close at 3 or 2.5. Lions, yeah, I think this boy's scrambling because he had the Lions -3.5.
No.
All right, Lions -3.5 versus the Falcons, my second selection.
I have a section of last games out, and it includes Falcons +3.5. So because he's on Detroit, now I don't need to go with that game. I can go with one of my other last games out. And by the way, if you see me looking down at my cellular telephone, not a shameless plug, I'm looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook because there is one rule. The best line we can get on DraftKings Sportsbook is the one that we can use. So I was just looking to see if you could maybe get the Lions at 3, but right now it is 3.5. So that is the number that goes into the book for you. Like right now, Seahawks right now, -6, -105. I'm not trying to get that 5.5. My play's on the record, but I'm just saying as of right now, we're sitting here 1:27 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday. These lines are moving all over the goddamn joint. All right, next play for me. You know what it is. To quote the great Chris Berman, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, -6.5 at the Washington Commanders. So are the Commanders going to beat the Buffalo Bills, start their season 3-0? Is that what's going to happen? Is that what's going to happen? I don't think it is. I don't believe so. I think they're far more likely to lose this game and then lose to the Eagles in week 4 and be closer to what we thought they were at 2-2. But I like Buffalo here. I guess some hesitation, just overriding theme, backing a big road favorite. But the Bills are a fucking wagon. Don't let week 1 fool you. Their offense is well balanced, can be explosive. Defense heard from last week. Of course, they held the Raiders under 250 yards. Commanders have a lot of confidence in Sam Howell. They seem like a unified bunch. They are getting healthier. But I don't think they're on Buffalo's level. Bills 31, Commanders 20. Did you ask for the final score? Buffalo -6.5 makes the card for week.
Yeah, good pitch. I think I'm sold there. I like that. I was not on that game, but I think that may make it in the 5. Good stuff there. My third selection. Waited for DC to get out of here. Packers -2 versus the fucking Saints. I think the Saints are hot garbage, especially on offense. This is a bet against the Saints to me as much as it's a bet on the Packers. I know there's a lot of unknown with the Packers' health, but what if Aaron Jones and Christian Watson do play? They didn't play last week, and the Packers looked just fine for most of it. You know, when Josh McDaniels, it's not like he was seeking Jimmy Garoppolo. He was trying to get Derek Carr out of town because Derek Carr ain't hoisting Lombardi. It's not happening. I just don't see it. I know a few years ago when they were 13-3 with the Raiders, he was an MVP candidate. I just don't see it. For me, I think the line kind of already reflects that Christian Watson and Aaron Jones aren't going to be playing at the Packers -2. Short number at home. I don't see the Saints going 3-0. Go, Pack, go.
All right, I'm mulling my fifth selection in my head as I give you selection number 4. The Indianapolis Colts +8 at the Baltimore Ravens. Gardner Minshew, pretty good fucking box score filling in for Anthony Richardson last week. I don't think there's a huge drop-off if Richardson doesn't play. For my ticket here on the show, I would prefer if he did play, but he is in the concussion protocol. So Zach Moss got it going on the ground in week 2. Ravens dealing with some injuries. They haven't been clicking on all cylinders despite that 2-0 start. And then scheduling-wise, the Ravens go at the Cleveland Browns divisionally, then at the Pittsburgh Steelers in weeks 4 and 5 respectively. Not saying John Harbaugh is going to allow for any look ahead, but I do like this spot for the Colts. I'm catching a big number, 8 points, with a team that can score against a Baltimore offense that is not in midseason form. Colts +8 is a play for me at the Baltimore Ravens in week 3.
Did you see how excited John Harbaugh was on the sidelines when they beat the Bengals last week? I mean, it's like everything's been lifted, right? The Lamar Jackson contract is over with. So anyway, I am against you there. This was my 5th selection. We're bumping it up to number 4. Ravens -8 versus the Colts. So to me, I just don't see them giving one back here against the Colts. And your point, right? Gardner Minshew, yeah, box score looked good, but a lot of times these backup quarterbacks, yeah, he really is a good backup. But sometimes when these guys end up becoming the starter, the game planning against them, they just fall flat in their face. I actually like the Ravens no matter who plays quarterback. I do think to some extent, your point may be well taken that if Richardson goes, maybe I like the Ravens a little bit more. So anyway, for me, it's definitely the Ravens here. I think they roll. I should have played them week 1 home against the Texans. The Ravens schedule is going to get more difficult. I think they have to handle business here. And the Texans really are still figuring it out. So the Colts last week, I'm not overreacting to that. I just think when the final score, I like writing down the final scores. I think this is a 2-touchdown game, like being head-to-head against you. Give me John Harbaugh's boys, -8, 4th selection.
All right, so a lot of different directions in which I could go with this 5th and final selection. We come up with 8 games just in case there's any head-to-head agreement or even disagreement in this case with Falcons and Lions, and I still want to go in a different direction. I do like the Saints against the Packers, but I don't know on the injury report, and I don't know where that number is going to close. But I do like the New Orleans Saints as an underdog there. How about this stat for you? New Orleans Saints, the only team in the NFL this year that has to play on the road following a road Monday game. And they're not healthy either. So that's a really hard thing. And, of course, the New York Giants, as many people know, staying out on the West Coast after their game against Arizona. Chargers and Vikings is interesting, right? I feel like come Sunday, I might have a pretty significant bet on that game, but I'm not going to necessarily get into all of that noise right now. The Rams and Bengals game has bounced around a little bit, right? And we don't know as of this taping as to whether or not Joe Burrow is going to play. But this is going to be a play for me on Matthew Stafford. Right now, the DraftKings Sportsbook line is +2.5. Puka Nacua and everybody else getting it going. I just think Matthew Stafford looks outstanding. And the Rams defense, anchored by Aaron Donald, I think maybe has overachieved a little bit this year. It's a Super Bowl rematch, obviously, from a couple of years ago. Must win for Cincinnati, you can argue, to be sure. But I don't know, man. There's just something about this Rams outfit coming off a loss. They're playing particularly hard. Sean McVay seems interested. And I'm going to go with the LA Rams back-to-back weeks +2.5 at the Cincinnati Bengals. And let's just hope that we get that one home. And I do like the Falcons, though, +3.5. His Lions selection there is not particularly sharp.
I feel, Cody Merrill just put up in the chat, Ravens -7.5 right now. That's interesting.
Oh, it moved.
Because we're on opposite sides. I feel like we just got to stay on the same number, though, since we're both on that game, regardless of what the number is, whether it's 7.5 or 8,
It's interesting because, man, that's a tricky one that this is happening live, that it moved to 7.5, right? Because you actually should get 7.5, but then we should have Cody monitoring it the whole time. So you made your pick at 8. I think you got to, what's that whole thing? Like when you make your bed, you got to fucking sleep in it.
So the reason I said you wouldn't like my picks is because my 5th selection is my 5th and final favorite, all favorites. When I look down at my board, it's all favorites. It's so for the 5, there's no way I would submit 5 picks to the Super Contest, all favorites. There's no chance. But for Anik Squared, I decided I'm not going to, with week 1 and week 2, we're starting to get a little bit more we're able to do a little bit more homework. And I just think some of these teams that really are closer to midseason form than others that might be heavy favorites, some of these lines in week 3 might be bigger in week 6 or 7 because we really know what these teams are. So my fifth and final selection tomorrow night, the San Francisco 49ers -10 hosting the Giants without Saquon Barkley. You are correct that they are staying out on the West Coast. Daboll requested this from the NFL back in May that they would eliminate this West Coast trip there. So this was well planned, and certainly they're going to have a more enjoyable few days after that big comeback win, but a huge emotional comeback. I just think this Giants team is, I hate to say it, I was high on them going into the season, but I think they're closer to the team that was outscored 60-0 in the first 6 quarters of the season. I know they played a good half. The 49ers are just a well-oiled machine. I'm sick of rooting for the Giants too. So give me the 49ers Thursday night, -10, maybe trying to get one up on the field early, but that Thursday night game, I just think the 49ers are going to be amped up. First home game for them, I believe. Yeah. So let's go 49ers to close it out -10. That is the Thursday night tickle.
And if you want to handicap the handicapper, me, it has been nice to be able to come home and actually devote some significant time to the NFL after just a crazy stretch for the UFC. We just this weekend wraps a stretch of 17 straight weeks with a live event. So for me, it was a nice little respite to dive into the NFL and follow or fade, at your own discretion. But we feel pretty good about the card and on opposite sides of this perennial square. So we feel pretty good. I like it.
Can't thank the handsome legend, Daniel Cormier, enough for joining us today. And as always, thanks to our great producer, Cody Merrow. For my brother, Jon Anik, my name is Jason Anik. We will see you next week. We appreciate you as always on Anik Squared. Have a great week. Enjoy the games.